which will possibly be changing a little bit with today's CDE and USDA announcement, which if you haven't heard, waivers have been extended through the end of the school year, next school year. So that is a huge thing. We found out about 2 hours ago, and immediately we were having to go in and change this presentation and update with information. So 105, I'm going to launch. We're going to get full started. You've got two other trainers here that are going to be chiming in and helping with support. They are muted right now. They can unmute themselves. Daphne, Wendy, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hi, Daphne Roberts here, Chief Commercial Officer at Better For You. We're excited to hear from all of you today, so happy to be here.
Great, great. Are you available via microphone, Wendy? I know Wendy was talking to a few schools right now that were logging in or requesting some information. All right. Yes, we're getting good feedback already. You love hearing about these waivers. And by the way, every one of you that has forwarded me the email, texted to me, asking if we saw it already, thank you. We love you. That's the awesomeness of some of this business is the minute we all get good news, we love to share because this is impacting all of us. It really, really is. So yes, I've got a question here. Can we explain in more detail about the waivers? I definitely will. It will be coming up on multiple slides throughout this. And we are up to 75 people and it is 105. And I am going to try and respect all of your time and get you in and get you out. We have a lot of information to cover. So again, type in your questions. If I don't go to your question right away, Daphne or Wendy will be reeling me back in.
Yeah, or I can just type, I will type whatever questions I can answer quickly as well.
Oh, yeah, yes. Even better. So great. So definitely pay attention to the poll side and the questions and the chat area. And all right, I'm going to close this little people finder. And so again,
Stephen, since Wendy wasn't able to introduce herself yet, Wendy is our registered dietitian and director of nutrition at Better For You. So she will also be chiming in, especially when it comes to matters about the CDE and compliance.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here. So sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. Okay, so let's get into this. So again, this is town hall number 1. And one of the things that we did over the last couple of days is we changed this from a little bit from the typical style town hall, which if any of you have been logging into the CDEs, town halls that they've had over the last couple of weeks, they've gone from district to district, pictures to picture, video, and shared some good info, but a lot of it hasn't been relevant to you, has not been relevant to your charter schools and the way that you operate and the way you operate in conjunction with us as your vendor. So we got a lot of requests. When are we going to have a charter school one? And so a lot of the schools, you're not ready to announce what you're doing yet. So what we decided is we're going to announce and share what we are doing, what we can do going forward with you. So as you start crafting your plans with your school leadership, you'll have some good information to share with them. And then hopefully the plans of what we can do and what you need to do as a school can really dovetail into something that works for everyone. Okay, so we have again, all right. You can enter your questions again in the question area or in the chat. We'll get alerts for both. And Daphne, myself, and Wendy will be taking a look and trying to answer as we go along. So let's go ahead and get into some of this nitty gritty. A little bit, some milestones. We have some new schools that are brand new to us and accounts that are just coming on board. And then there's some new staff that 3 months ago, you weren't doing those school lunch programs. You're still learning a little bit about Better For You. 2014, we launched this kitchen in the City of Commerce in LA. We are now servicing over 300 sites here in LA and about 500 employees, give or take, just here. 2017, we went crazy. Listened to the calls from the Bay Area, and we launched our meal break kitchen. We're now over 90 sites there. Jonathan Diaz is on this webinar also, and man, we are doing just some great things, having some really good fun and doing good work there in the Bay Area. I'm going to jump ahead a couple of years. March 13th, all of this happened. The schools announced, the state announced, schools were closing. Since then, we have served roughly about 7 million meals throughout California and Arizona and Nevada. I don't, it blows my mind to think of all of your sites that have stepped up and have been out there day after day serving these meals. And it's given us the opportunity to keep our doors open, to keep our staff employed. So many of us have, I mean, the gratefulness there, we can probably never express in total words the opportunity to be your partners in this and to see what your schools have done and how quickly you all mobilize. And then this work with Nevada opened up an opportunity, and a large group went to bid recently, and we felt we could be a good partner with them. And we've recently just got awarded 21 schools that we will be launching in Nevada this school year, and really kind of helping to fill a void for their largest vendor out there was the food bank, and they're no longer going to be serving. There was a lot of schools that had no idea where their food was going to be coming from this year, and we're so honored and privileged just to be a part of this. So it's a little bit there on us. We will dig in. So here's the biggest six areas we're going to get into. A little bit of the overview of the closure. What do we know about next year? What will meal service look like that Better For You can provide? What are some of the challenges that we expect for your schools and also for us? And then what will the fall menu look like? We have, again, the draft of the menu already. And then we've got some tips for the rollout that we encourage you to share. And then as you've got questions, that's going to create us more answers. I'm going to take a quick peek if there's any questions, if there's anything else.
Not yet.
Want to make sure. All right. Thank you for getting my back there.
Your slides aren't up though.
You're not seeing my slides?
I'm not. I don't know if anyone else is.
Trish,
I do see them.
Oh, sounds like operator error.
I'll text you, Wendy.
All right. All right. Let's go on. So today marks day 74 of uninterrupted COVID service for Better For You. We launched March 13th. Your schools got word. We got word the day before that it was likely coming. Contacts we have in Sacramento, we were contacting many of you and trying to make all the preparations we can. We were worried, what do we do with all this food? What's going to happen? We had no idea what any of the next coming months would look like. And day 74, we have not taken a holiday off. Every single day, Memorial Day through the spring breaks, we have been serving food, and your sites, for the most part, have been receiving food and giving out food. And it's just been amazing. Some of the successes, many schools have stepped up. We said normally we serve about 300. We've been serving about 100 sites. Just here in LA, about another dozen or so in the Bay Area, and with more sites still adding, coming on board for the summer. And many of your sites have been serving the entire community as best you can, serving your LAUSD students, serving district students in your neighborhood. We're seeing schools out in San Bernardino that are serving more meals than the school district. School district has 40,000 kids, and PAL Charter out there in San Bernardino is serving just about as many meals as the entire district combined at all their sites, and PAL's doing it at 3 sites. The charters have stepped up in ways that are just unbelievable, and the CACFP sponsors have stepped up in humongous ways, providing suppers, providing meals at community rec centers, and in numbers again. Like the need is there. The need, it's been somewhat silent and prior to this, but to see how many meals and to see the families and the parents line up every single day to come by, it's heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same exact time. The non-congregate meal service, again, I mean, that dovetails with, you've been serving kids that don't go to your schools, but they're 18 and younger, and they may not like what was being offered by some of the districts. Actual meals were not being served by a lot of school districts anymore. They were just looking for prepackaged frozen items that they could distribute quickly. And we understand they don't necessarily have some of the capability to make meals and seal them the way we were. But it's we're the families are coming from all over, and then that multiple day distribution, something we've never done before. We've never frozen meals and shipped them out to your schools to give out for 5 days at a time. And to see the way some of your schools have set up with social distancing, set up your sites to allow for families to come up and pop their trunks and get 5 days worth of breakfast and lunch and supper at some of your sites, it's mind blowing. But there's been challenges, absolutely. Limited product availability. It's reduced the type of the menu we could have. Plus, we started with so much product already here and coming from vendors that we had ordered just for your March and April menu. We had to make sure we got rid of all of that, so that no food could go to waste. So there was limited product availability because a lot of all the individually wrapped stuff was going to school districts. No lie, they were buying it all, and so some of these vendors weren't even taking our calls because they just couldn't, they didn't have it. Limited protective equipment. We were having to get out the mask and gloves and wipes and having to ration like we've never had before. Thermometers we were trying to get a hold of to get them here in our building to make sure that all of our staff are being checked upon entry of the building, and trying to work with some of your sites who were needing thermometers out there. Some of you were fighting through long lines. I saw pictures or was at sites and to see families lined up down the street or cars lined up down the street, affecting traffic. But I even seen some of the police working with your sites and understanding what you're doing. And it was big. This was really big. Um, but again, so those were some of the challenges and successes. And if you've got any that you'd love to share, any challenges or successes that you've had at your site, please throw them into the chat area. Let us know what's been going great at your school and what your kind of feedback you're getting. Share your wins, because we all may not have seen each other these last couple months, but you best believe we've all been in on this together. All right.
I think, Stephen, I also just want to add as a challenge that, especially on the sites that remained open, that, we had people that, had potential exposure, and we had to like change plans overnight because the site needed to be closed or things like that. And everybody really stepped up and helped to sort of figure all of those things out and navigate the actual virus. So that's been big.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now moving on into what do we know about 2021 so far? So this was a slide I had to update literally in the last couple hours, because I was ready to come at all of you, encouraging you to contact your congressmen and your senators and USDA and push for these waivers to get approved. And then lo and behold, we got the email, and it was awesome. But one of the things that absolutely is going to happen with a lot of your students is your number of free eligible students, especially those who are eligible through direct certification, is increasing. Right now, as part of these waivers, and I'll get into them just a bit, it's not allowing for all students to eat for free. Not like right now, any student can come and get a free meal. That is not an approved waiver as of yet. And so you're going to really need to find ways to communicate to your families to be open and honest on some of the income surveys that you send out to them, and to see so that they don't miss out on their kids being eligible for free lunch. Again, if they are through direct certification now, because there's a lot more families who have become eligible for WIC and through with EBT and through Medi-Cal, then okay, it's awesome. Those are easy ones. But your kids who maybe are on the fringe there, or their families, again, for multiple reasons, just don't turn in those forms. Really, really encourage them. Let them know it's never been more important to get them, and you can start now as best you can. And as this food insecurity with your families is going to be higher than ever, I mean, and we see it because the number of families that are coming to your site to get food. More and more charters and districts are exploring the option of moving towards CEP and Provision 2. If you don't know what those are, Those are alternative ways of basically processing your claims, and where you will get automatic levels of funding for your students, and pretty much all your students essentially then are receiving meals at no charge. CEP has been extended, um, the application period into August. So No Kid Hungry is going to be hosting a webinar 1 week, or on Tuesday, actually, sorry, this Tuesday, a free webinar talking about CEP and how your school could be eligible. If you think your direct certification rates could be in that 50 to 60% range, then you're in a really good position towards pushing all of your kids into free. So again, let us know if you've got questions. I'm not going to go in, this isn't a CEP workshop, so I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but if you've even been thinking about it, talk to us, talk to CDE, definitely engage with No Kid Hungry on their webinar next Tuesday. It's big. I know you don't have your plans yet. We keep asking your schools what your plans are. Are your kids coming 2 days a week? Are they coming 3 days a week? Are they coming for 1 week on, 1 week off? We've heard schools that the kids are going to be, certain grades are going to be 7:30 to 11. The other kids are coming in after that until almost 4 or 5. As your school is finalizing these plans, please engage with us as early as possible, like before they're finalized. Tell your principals, tell your APs, your executive directors, you need to engage with us, because that will allow us to kind of get an idea of how we can best help you, how we can best be a partner into feeding your kids. Because what the worst thing I don't want is for your team to have this amazing plan that you've worked really hard on, and then when you roll it out to us, we look at it like, I don't know if we're going to be able to support every aspect of that for your meal. And it could be because you're going to need 4 deliveries in a day, or you're going to need a combination of food that we may not be able to do. There's not that many scenarios that we can't pull off, but let us know now so that we can be really collaborative in brainstorming and then finding ways again to be your partner. Before I get into the waivers, pre-packed items. It's going to be an all-time high on demand. Districts are gobbling them up as best they can. We've got vendors that we buy from, food manufacturers that are on the East Coast, that are pretty much telling us they're not even shipping to the West Coast right now because they're so overloaded with orders just on the East Coast and in the Midwest. And so items, some of the prepackaged pancakes, waffles, different little the muffin flat bars that your kids really like, we're trying to get them. We can't get our hands on them. So this is going to result in us using a lot more local vendors, a lot more products that we make in-house, but it's going to reduce some of the cycle early on. And like I said, all of the other districts are all fighting over, they want pre-packed food because they can't make a pre-packed meal like we do. So they need that pre-packaged frozen cheeseburger or burrito, or again, some of the bars, the breakfast bars. And so as we get into the menu, that's one of the things we want to share in advance is anything that's in a wrapper and sealed, because nobody's going to have exposed food anywhere, not just California, pretty much in the country. And so anybody who manufactures packaged food for schools, they're going to be in high demand. So now let's get into waivers. I just want to take a peek at the questions. All right, it's about waivers. Great. So I'm going to actually show, here's the main waivers that have been approved right here in the middle, right? They are approved through June 2021. CDE about at 12:50 just sent out their announcement. And so that's why it still says still waiting on California specific info. I wasn't going to update this in the last 10 minutes. The meal pattern waiver is approved. Wendy, you want to chime in just a little bit on some of these waivers and what you think, how they're going to play into what we can do and best practices for the schools?
Sure. All right. So, of course, we still have more details to find out, but just kind of to briefly run through these. So the meal pattern waiver is basically just allowing flexibility to the meal pattern, so NSLP and school breakfast. So that means everything from flexibility with subgroups potentially to serving sizes that are typically required by age group. So the last thing that I just want to confirm that we're not trying to not send enough food. That's never going to be our goal, but I think sending out the amount of food that's realistic for kids to eat is our priority. So that's one thing. And we don't quite know what California is going to require, but we're thinking that it's going to be a lot like what happened this summer. So where, you filled out a form and you explained what your challenges were, and then it got approved that way. So we're thinking it's going to be similar to that. The next one is the group setting. So instead of kids having to eat, all together during lunch, or even like all together in the classroom, there can be potential for them to grab a meal before they go home if they only do a half day, or take multiple meals at a time. Like if they're only going 2 days a week, then potentially there's room for them to, take meals for the remainder of the week. And of course, that last one, which we really love, is that parents can continue to pick up meals for kids, like on days that kids don't have to go to school. So that's really important because that keeps kids safe and reduces exposure all around.
Yeah. Do you want to touch a little on how OBS for high school, how they can
Oh, yeah.
transition to serve only?
Yes. So I know a lot of schools have been wanting to transition to serve only. It makes sense. It's easier. But for high school, they're required to be offer versus serve. So I'm really glad that the USDA realized that this is going to be a bit of a challenge with the grab and go setting. So kids will not have to be served in offer versus serve for that 9 to 12th grade. We'll be able to prepackage those meals and they can just, quickly grab and go. Or in the classroom, it can just kind of be one little packaged meal and they're ready to go, and you don't have to worry about them, selecting certain items and declining certain items. So everyone can kind of just get the same meal. And again, it's all about reducing exposure.
Alrighty.
And I
So
see we do have questions. I don't know if they're related.
got one here regarding CEP.
Okay.
How charters that are CEP are collecting their family income data. I'd say right off the bat, I know many of the schools have been looking and trying into their CalPads and trying to see how their direct cert numbers may be increasing. And then for those schools that are CEP and say have 45% of their kids that are not direct certified approved, those are ones that you can reach out to. And whether it's just through emails, phone calls, or so, and start some engagement. And CEP does allow for alternative measures of what's the word, of eligibility. And so they may not just be within the direct cert database yet, but they are qualified under the programs that they are now participating in. Maybe they just started this month. But I don't know what other methods right now they're doing with reaching out. I want to say there's probably only a half a dozen CEP schools that are on this webinar right now. So if any of you are doing anything specific, by all means, I'd love to hear from you. And got one here. We created a form to collect income information. Okay, great. Yeah, so anything that you are beginning to do already, getting the word out. Let's see here. Lauren Knight, can I grant you mic access? I don't know. I think I can. Hold on. Lauren, you should be able to speak now.
Hey, Steve, sorry to jump in, but I just wanted to lend some information for that question about eligibility. And you're
I also just wanted to add in that because of pandemic EBT, which I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have heard about, the states have already done a lot of the heavy lifting with drug certifications and everything. So it is going to be easier, I imagine, for when schools are, trying to get that direct cert data because it's been updated this whole summer because of pandemic EBT.
Excellent. Thank you, Wendy. Lauren, are you still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you're absolutely right that the majority of or a good chunk of information for schools that are CEP, you can utilize the same data from your CalPads. So that's CalFresh, CalWorks, as well as I believe it's the 5.5 report, which is homeless, and then the other report, which is foster. So a lot of your students can be identified by those monthly pull downs from CalPads. And then in addition to that, the CDE does have templates for alternative income forms. So the schools that we support who have opted into CEP, you only have to do it one time at the beginning of the 4-year cycle for a student, and you can use that information for your per pupil funding, the unduplicated student count. But any new enrollees over the course of that 4-year cycle, you would have to provide them with that alternative income form. Again, the CDE website does have templates that you can use, and it really lessens the burden on both you and families as far as trying to process a bunch of income eligibility. You won't have to do it every single year for every single student.
And for those who don't know, Miss Lauren Knight is an amazing consultant, works with many, many, many charters throughout the nation in activities just like this, and CEP rollout and bids. Lauren, if you want to put your phone number and email into the chat section, I will not be upset if anyone would like to contact you. I'm sure maybe there's a few who may have some questions and could use some of your services. I think you went silent on me.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Steve, I didn't mean to hijack your presentation. I just thought I could
No.
for
This
a second, and I will certainly, I'll certainly drop in my info.
Yeah, and this is what we're about. I mean, I'm seeing in the chat that schools are connecting with each other and saying that I'm going to share information, share forums. The charter world is unique, and we've got to look out and help each other. So you've got a lot of great info, Lauren. So by all means, feel free to help us out a little bit here. If there's any information that you think would be useful, we love it. All right, so let me jump back to the presentation. All right, so that was a lot about the waivers. And again, these have just been approved as of about 11 a.m. today. So meal service styles. Let's get in. How can we serve your food? And a lot of that's going to be dictated by what does your school day look like? So based on conversations we've already been having with schools and brainstorming sessions, some of you are talking about a modified standard service. Hot food delivered to your school that your kids are going to eat on site, hot or cold, whichever you'd like for the day, and that your kids may be social distance eating, whether they're eating in the classroom, they're eating in an NPR spaced out, they're eating in outside open areas. We will, normal typical delivery that we would do, that hot delivery style, will still be an option. The split day class. There's some of your sites that are talking about mixing the students where they may be there in the morning. You'll have a morning and an afternoon kind of shift of classes and grouping, where some of your students may be having a meal at the end of their day, say 11:30, to either eat on site or take home. And some of your students are arriving to start their day and to start with a meal before they begin their classes. And then possibly even taking food home, whether if they're there in the afternoon session or they're taking home breakfast for the next day, if they're going to be back the very next day, but Now you've got breakfast that you can have to take home with them, or they can have, say again, the lunch. Um, that's we're that's an area that we definitely would be able to support also. And so it's a matter of just, again, as long as we know far enough in advance what the needs of your school and what the ideas of the setup is going to be. We've been talking with many of you are talking classroom meetings, where the meals are going to have to be sorted on site, packed for the individual classes, and in one way or another delivered to the classroom. Whether it's servers taking it to the classroom, whether the school, your class is sending their emissary, one person per, to come pick up the meals, and whether it's in bags that they're going to carry or they're going to have rolling carts. The equipment needs, if you're going to be in the classroom, need to be thought out right now. Because again, school districts are also having these conversations and are also engaging with the manufacturers and starting to place orders. And so there may not be a ton of available immediate equipment right away. So the earlier we can get in, you can get in your orders to meet your need, the better. And so if you need any links or references to referrals to manufacturers or the people who produce that, we can provide that. And then also we're working on like a better for you turnkey solution, something less expensive, easy to replace, easy to access, with different products that you can be on a little cart with lightweight Cambros that are low cost, and then you can take the meals to your site, to your classroom very easily. So we're just trying to come up with any possible solutions that would fit for your site. And then some of your schools are thinking, again, that mix of hot and cold meals. You've got some kids on campus that are going to eat, some that are going to be full distance learning and but possibly their parents can swing by. One school was telling me that they're thinking of doing their meal service almost like towards the end of the day, something later in the day, maybe 4 or 5 o'clock into the evening, when parents possibly could be getting off for the day and they're picking up food for the next day. And so they're looking at a lot of different options. Just trying to see what's going to be best for your families too, because as your families start to go back to work, what's going to work for them? What time of the day is maybe a midday or early day is not going to be able to reach the majority of your families for food pickup if they're going to be on the distance learning side.
Yeah, and also, Stephen, when Stephen's saying hot or cold meals, we don't necessarily mean like a hot meal that's like spaghetti that we bring hot, or a cold meal that's a sandwich. It can be a hot meal that we're sending cold for you to send home. So there's like a hot ready to eat, there's a hot ready to heat, and then also like a cold, like a full cold meal, like a sandwich or a salad.
Yeah, and for many of your sites, I know this happened. I just got back from Nevada. We were meeting with the schools up there. Many of the schools are talking they want to go all cold meals for their first week or so, sandwiches or something down those lines, something that's easy, something that you can give out quickly, because and if you don't know your numbers, that could be something that could stay refrigerated and possibly carried over to the next day as long as food temps are monitored. So if you're thinking anything down those lines, again, those are things that we need to know early on, because we have to prepare like our baker. How much bread are we going to need in those first weeks? And so that we have enough product on hand to meet all of your needs. Because if everyone calls us the week before school starts and say, I want to change my orders, I want sandwiches only, we're going to run out of sandwiches, and or Daphne may kill me.
Yeah. Well, and also we are accustomed to, like, so we at our facility make various different menu types, but we're accustomed to 80% of our meals coming from the hot option 1, right? So if all of a sudden, so when I do projections about what I think you all might be ordering, where it's normally around like 5,000, 6,000 maybe on a high day for the cold option. So our team, and believe it or not, a sandwich actually takes longer to make than a spaghetti dish. It's just a different process. So if we go to all of a sudden needing 30,000 sandwiches, we would need to plan to how we would achieve that, because right now, the way that we're set up, we're not necessarily ready for that kind of request.
All right. So what is some of our service going to look like? Right off the bat, we're tackling August and September. So October, hopefully November, things start to change. World, we start getting a little bit back to normal. I mean, these last 3 months, I mean, 2020 itself has just been quite interesting. Um, and so right now we're just trying to look at what changes do we need to meet your needs for August and September. And part of that, again, based on product availability limitations. There was a question on there, do we expect to have shortages for our own clients? The answer to that is no. Um, that's one of the reasons we are changing over more towards local vendors. We have vendors that only make products for us. They do not sell to the other school or to school districts or so. It's all proprietary items just for us. And so the combination of using more local and also reducing the menu down. So we are going to be really reliant on those products and manufacturers that we can absolutely rely on. The ones that are coming from the East Coast or Midwest, we just can't rely on them as well. So those ones we're going to have to pull out of the menu. And there's only so many good items that we really like to serve and that your kids like. And so if we have to pull some of those Midwest or East Coast items, it's going to get us down to about more like an 8-day rotation for breakfast and a little bit different, a little more for lunch. Um, but they're items, again, quality items that we can rely on. So I can tell you pan dulce and coffee cakes and tamales are in those reliable products list. That was a question I got yesterday. Is pan dulce still going to continue or be available into next year? So you're going to have we're going to reduce breakfast to one hot item per week. Typically it's two, but because some of those products, the hot items don't come local, it's going to be difficult. Plus, a lot of the schools have already been requesting more of a cold grab and go type breakfast. Cereal will still be offered daily, but it's going to go to the one hot per week. And again, we're just talking August and September. We hope to expand it out absolutely and start bringing in the normal offerings that we would have for the school year, but rolling it out in October. For the lunch menu, it's going to be reduced down to about the one hot featured dish daily, secondary cold dish, and then the vegetarian dish also. And the cold dish would be a combination of sandwiches, salads, or wraps, with definitely leaning a little more towards the sandwiches because that's the biggest request we get. Snack and supper. Those ones I'm not even going to show you menus on because we haven't made them because not a single school yet has really confirmed 100% that they are going to have an after-school program and that they will be serving it. So they don't know yet what it's going to look like. So we will roll those out a little bit as you start telling us, yes, I'm going to have an after-school program and I'm going to need a supper menu. These are the sites that are going to have it. And I know I have some CACFP sponsors on this also. And so for those of you, if you know you're already working with sites that are 100% going to have that are not a school, maybe they're a YMCA, a Boys and Girls Club, a community rec center, but they're going to have an after-school program and going to need food. Those are the things we're going to need to know as soon as possible. This way we can start crafting you up a menu that's going to work for your site. Let me see a couple of here. Let's see here, questions. Therapeutics. Wendy, Daphne, do you want to touch on those?
Yes, I was just wondering if Wendy was going to take it first. I'll take it. So we are currently reviewing that now. We actually were talking about it just yesterday. We're in the process of, I think what we're leaning towards is really focusing on our 6 main allergens. And Wendy, if I don't know them by memory, but basically like lactose-free, soy-free, those, and there's a couple gluten-free, there's a few other ones. Obviously we have 6 main ones, but we are looking to potentially source out ourselves the other more complicated menus. Just at this time, we just don't see feasibility of being able to provide specific menus for those students that fall outside the main 6. But we don't want to leave, obviously, anybody hanging. So we are looking at potential outsourcing options for that. Anytime that you outsource, the unfortunately price ranges are higher. So we'll have to discuss that on a case-by-case basis with the schools that are concerned. And then we're also, I think the biggest thing that we're working on is being able to provide ingredient lists, nutritional data, things like that in a much more timely manner, so that for the students that are able to just analyze and make decisions at in their homes at that level, then they have the opportunity to do that without needing an entire menu.
Yeah, and also one of the things we'll have to learn more about your sites is if you've got a student who requires a therapeutic meal, typically we send that meal every single day, but maybe they're only coming now Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and their parents don't want to bring them for the other days for their meals or so. So those are kind of some of the specifics we'll have to learn with your sites, because if they're only going to be there 2 days a week, we don't want to send necessarily a meal all 5 if it's not going to be taken.
Yes, definitely. This is Wendy here. Can you guys hear me?
Number 4 is the offer versus serve component. So for some of your sites, if you're talking feeding in the classroom, for the most part, the easiest way to feed a lot of kids quickly typically is going serve only. Give all the meals, all the components, everyone's got to take one, or they're already pre-packed for them, and you give them out. What that can do is generate a lot of food waste. If you're eating in the classroom, and not every kid is going to want that milk, but you're giving it to them, and all those milks are now going into the trash, or you don't have a plan necessarily to get those milks out of the classroom and all the food out of the classroom, you already know how your teachers are going to feel and how they're going to react to a lot of food waste, possible ants, rats, anything else down those lines, fruit flies. And so we want to work with you on trying to, if you do want to somewhat still try and integrate an offer versus serve plan, even though now the waiver allows even for high school to go serve only, some of you that may not be your ideal what you want. So we've been brainstorming already some ways to enact offer versus serve. Daphne's got some really great ideas of how you could do it early in the school year and then just make it your norm. If you know only 8 kids in the typical classroom want milk on a daily basis, okay, maybe now you're only sending those 8 because the other kids, quote unquote, maybe have opted out or offer OBS'd out of receiving it daily. You can find ways to get it to them if they did want it after all. But like I said, right now, it's a lot of brainstorming, trying to figure out what's going to work for your site. And I know many of you are very, very adamant about that food waste component. You don't want it on your school or at your classrooms, and you don't want it just the food sitting in backpacks sometimes. Because we get a lot of words of that. Sometimes the kids stash it in their backpack, and next thing you know, you've got a 2 or 3 week old apple or milk, or and you don't want them eating something that's been in the backpack for a couple of weeks. And fortunately, that's a real life story we've heard about. And so, talk to us if you do want to still try and integrate some sort of OBS at your school, and when you determine what it is you're going to do. We're here. We can brainstorm with you, and we'll definitely work closely. The on-site sorting. I've gotten a lot of questions is, can we send you the meals already, like broken up by classroom? And the reality is we just cannot. It impacts how much food, the way things are packed in our containers. It impacts how much food can fit on a truck. And it's just not possible for us to break up your food in advance, like say by classroom. We can Sometimes break it up by serving area if you have two serving areas on opposite sides of the campus. But if you're going to be building bags or containers that are going to go to the individual classrooms, it has to be done on site. Along if you're building bags for some of the meals um, that are going to be maybe taken home or parents are going to do a drive-through to come pick up, those again will still have to be built on site. We can work with you on for supplies as needed, but we just don't have that capacity as a vendor to be able to break it all up that far. Um, and yes, Trish, we can definitely work with you on finding the right size bags. I know we've been going with the larger bags right now, and largely because a lot of schools are giving out breakfast, lunch, and some days in advance. But if the smaller ones are going to be more ideal, then definitely yes, we can work with you there. Another question. We've got one here on will we provide the grab and go similar to field trip? To a certain degree, we can, but we will have limitations again because making those field trips, typically we only do maybe 500, 600, 700 field trip bags a day. And we can't pack as many into the Cambros or coolers. They take up a lot more space. And so again, they impact the delivery. So that wouldn't be something that we would be able to do on a widespread level for everyone because we couldn't do that with the way our production works downstairs. So it would be on a more case by case depending on the site. We could send you the components that could be done then packed on site. But for us to be able to send sack lunches to 200 schools or so, if that ended up being the desire, it would yeah, it would throw us off really bad downstairs. And question, oh, already answered, yes. Chocolate milk for sure will be served next year. We are still discussing strawberry and kind of how we can roll that out. But absolutely chocolate milk, if you want it, if you're a school that serves it, will be available. More service overviews for part 2 for next year. Unfortunately, and this is a note, some of your sites will, many of you knew it was coming. Family style meals have been suspended for the time being. August and September especially, family style meals. If you were going to be having hot meals served on site, we are suspending it. That is direct guidance. We have heard also from LA County Department of Health. Many of the schools of your sites that possibly serve family style do not have sneeze guards, do not have a lot of the other protective equipment. And there's a reason that buffets likely are not going to be coming back anytime soon. So family style will be suspended for the time being. Salad bars also. And to piggyback that, barbecues, pickup sticks, and Pizza Hut or Domino's. And the reason for Pizza Hut and Domino's also is because now you've got exposed pizzas that open up. Depending on how you be giving them out, it's a lot of touching of an exposed item. And so for the most part, the county health inspectors are going to be out and going to your schools, and they're going to be looking for exposed food. And we're trying to at least start as smooth the year with you as possible. And so we will definitely be in constant communication with each of you regarding when each of these can be brought back. A lot of that is going to be how everything plays out with cases, with what phase are we in for the schools and the state reopening. But wanted to throw it out there right now so that your schools already can know. And let me just touch on, I know this is a sensitive subject with some of these. So got a question, would fruits and vegetables be prepackaged as well? Vegetables, absolutely. They almost always are right now. I'd say they actually always are. They're either in the meal or they are in veggie dipper packets. Unless you had a salad bar, they were always prepackaged. Fruit, any sort of diced fruit would be prepackaged. Whole fruit, though, will not be individually wrapped like we've been doing for some of this COVID time. We will be taking still extraordinary measures on our side with the washing. And then once we get to the schools, but as of right now, we're still determining which fruits are going to be ideal for serving. Obviously, those that do not have flesh-eating skin. No, that's a horrible term. Skin that is edible. Um, then some of those will probably reduce a little of those, but not all the fruit will be prepackaged. Um, and trying to see here any other comments, chats.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch a little bit because I had a question about like, do we have to serve all the components? So I think that we are also sort of analyzing to see what things are like challenges versus availability and things like that. And we just have to remember that we want to be like reasonable about what we can and cannot provide. So like thinking like, okay, well, it's just like we don't want to serve milk because it's just too hard or because nobody likes it anyway, things like that. But we still kind of we can come up with ways to combat that is not so like absolute, and try to come up with solutions that still is available for children to take that milk if they do want it, unless you're going to have like water bottles available for everybody or something like that. So it gets a little bit more complicated when you just decide to completely eliminate one component. Things that make more sense would be, so for example, in breakfast we are required to have a cup of fruit available. Most of our fruits are served in half cups. So we are considering providing on a daily just the half cup so that we don't have to give every child two if you decide to do a serve only classroom model. So in that sense, we are saying that realistically, a half a cup is what most kids will eat: one apple, one banana, one orange, not two apples. So those are the kinds of arguments that we need to just make sure that we are painting the picture of what that having two apples for 300 kids is very logistically difficult to deliver to every single classroom, etc. So and if you want to have like a deeper conversation of saying like, okay, yeah, none of my kids ever drink the milk, like then we can talk about how to implement like an OVS status that is easy and not cumbersome. Does that make sense? I hope so.
Yeah. Alrighty. Moving forward, number 9, menu adjustments. We will be adjusting the menu. Like I said, we will be starting with some limited cycles early on, trying to really hit some of the favorites that your kids like. But some of the other dishes, some of the salads, some of the soups. Obviously, not many people want a soup in August or September, anyways. But some of the other dishes that are a little bit more difficult on the preparation or to serve, we'll be holding them back until October and beyond. But as the school year progresses, we have a lot of dishes we want to roll out and we're excited about. We have been working with a group called Brigade, and that's BRIGAID. If you've never heard of them, look them up. Amazing individuals, founded by the head chef of formerly the #1 restaurant in the entire world. Um, and he's come back to America a couple of years ago and has started this organization to help school districts and schools realistically change and improve their meal program. So I'm not talking Jamie Oliver food revolution style. I'm talking understanding what your budget is, what your products are, what your facilities are, and we just contracted with them and they came out. Um, just a couple of weeks ago and spent a week with us looking at our menus, um, and uh, and looking at our production floor. And these are trained world-class chefs who know commodities and can speak your language and know meal components. And it was such a breath of fresh air to see some of their ideas and now to have some of their recipes that we're going to be able to roll out and refining the way we do things. There's going to be some big changes, but again, we have to wait for the right timing. Uh, and then the other part there being, um, I've got one sec. Wendy's mentioning um, she was unable to speak. Wendy, you have yourself on mute. You can go ahead. There you are. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you. I'm gonna keep talking, Wendy. So once you're able to speak or so or anything, feel free to keep trying, and I'll stop whenever.
Yeah, she's
Um,
telling me it's still not working for some reason. All right,
okay.
I'll talk offline.
Okay. Or feel free to go ahead and type in whichever you were going to mention, Wendy, too. So again, like I said, we got a lot of great things, and they will be coming. So that's one of the things. If your kids ask, or your parents ask, or your principals ask, um, the menu's going to change, and it's going to progress throughout the year. It's going to evolve. We just have to get through some of these first rough months. Um, and here's another big part that some of your sites, you already got the announcement because you've been serving right now. We have to maintain site integrity at your schools, as you are trying to do also. I mean, many of you are keeping, if your site staff are still coming to schools, you're keeping them spread apart, different buildings based on the departments, less commingling, less contact, direct. If you have a server that calls off sick, and so we are notified that they're not going to be in because they're sick, typically in the past, we would have tried to find a replacement for you. We've even been trying to do that over these past couple months, and in the last month, it has been backfiring on us because at one site, or if somebody were to be sick and to have a positive case, or we think there may be one, now we need to contact trace and find every person that person's been in contact with, less than 6 feet, more than 10 minutes, all the other aspects that the county gives to us. And now that means we may have to pull your other server. And if we sent you a replacement server, maybe now that server can't go back to their own school. And so we have to maintain site integrity. So that's one of the things we're going to need your schools to be prepared for, is if you have a server that's ill for that day or for 2 days, your site will likely have to find staff to be able to help to serve. We won't be able to send additional staff. If it's going to be a long-term absence, that's different. Then we will work to find you a new long-term replacement. But for a day or 2 days or so, we can't, because we have to make sure we don't want to be impacting any other schools by sending you a replacement. And now we've lost your servers, our server, or the other school server. It just it's too scary. It's absolutely scary.
And during the time where regular school year, we would have what we called like a floater server. That it's just a server that's not assigned to a school, but can just bounce around. So that also creates a problem, because now what if the floater server says she's homesick? So now she's gone floated to various schools. So these are the things that we just can't do anymore, at least during this period of time that we're in right now.
And our staff, drivers, everyone are being given extreme direction that the amount of contact they're going to be having at your school sites needs to be reduced to almost zero from a distance. If they need the production records or delivery records signed, they should be leaving them on the table, backing up, allowing you to review, give you space, give you time, sign them. You leave them back on the table, kind of separate. We want to reduce the amount of interaction as much as possible. And I know some of you have amazing relationships with the servers, with the drivers, but for the time being, we need to create as much distance as possible. I was even went into Starbucks for the first time the other day, and yeah, they've got that table. You got to back up. They put your food there, then they back up, and then you can come get it. And so, again, if the drivers are now a little bit more separated from you, understand, please don't think it's anything personal. Those are the reasons why we have to create as much distance as possible. Can delivery records be sent electronically? That's a very good question, and it's something that I have wanted for a long time, and just finding the exact ways has still been a challenge for the execution. But I absolutely guarantee you that's something we are talking about. And if we can find the best ideal solution for it, uh, we will likely want to roll it out. But as of right now, we don't have a stable day in, day out solution for it. Um, but that's why we just got to make sure we kind of create those points of distance as much as possible until we can find a better solution. All right, we're getting to the home stretch here. Challenges for fall 2020, something that we anticipate. So at your school, some of the challenges we expect you to face is your scheduling. When are your kids going to be there? When are they not? How long are they going to be there? Who's going to be there? All right, we know that's your challenge that you're facing day in, day out. And we, like I said before, we just ask to be part of that conversation as early as possible, um, just so that we can get an idea of how best we can support, and so that we prepare also. Because if all the schools don't tell us until like a week before you start, I can't guarantee it's gonna be a very smooth rollout in that first week or two. It the times when you receive food, um, those windows. I mean, I get it from other vendors and from schools that don't believe we deliver to 300 sites and hot food in this magical like 1 hour period all over California prior to your serving. And somehow, for the most part, we do a pretty darn good job. And we have a very, very low rate of late deliveries, um, considering how many we do every day. And we want to make sure that we can continue that. So our transportation team needs to know when they're going to be able to deliver, what times, and to whom, and what kind of food. So as we learn more and you learn more, definitely please include us. We're going to be brainstorming with you and finding ways to maximize these waiver options, to make sure that you're able to serve as many of your kids as possible. One of the things that if you're not CEP, you're not free for everyone, you may have a lot of students that may not, either one, their families don't turn in the form and they don't properly fill it out. And so their children are not properly designated as free eligible. But you know them, you know their families, you know the need is there. What do you do? So that's, again, we're going to look at ways and brainstorm with you on every possible way to maximize these waiver options so that your site is really fulfilling the needs of your kids. And then if you are transitioning to an all serve only, you don't do offer versus serve at all, what does that look like? We can be part of your ideas and your brainstorming. We work with schools that are serve only, and so they have plans already, or breakfast in the classroom. They have plans in place and best practices for waste management and trash cans and getting that food out of the classroom so that instruction can begin, and not having the food really going to be a deterrent to the limited educating and time minutes that you're going to have. So again, what's the family impacts for your school? Those students, again, those paid students who have a need, but also how does this impact your families who have kids at multiple schools? If you're only allowed, as of right now, the waiver is not opening up so that you can serve everyone the way you have been right now, anyone under 18. So if a mom has a kid at 3 different sites and has the need for the meal, she may have to go to 3 different schools. Is there any way around that? We don't know yet, but we're going to be looking. I guarantee you that. And maybe there's ways if their kids are within your network of schools, and maybe there's ways to check them off. And mom can at least stop at one site, but it's covering students at multiple schools that are under your CMO network. So a lot of these details, we're going to be pushing CDE with a lot of questions and throwing a lot of scenarios at them. Many of you, you already know CDE doesn't like to talk to vendors that much. So I may be giving you the questions to run with and find answers for everyone, and then we can share all that information out. But it's a problem that you know your families, especially if they're not very car mobile. How are they going to go to multiple schools and get them food? Placing accurate orders. It's going to be fun in the first couple of weeks because, again, are your kids going to be there on what days, and is everyone going to eat, or is no one going to eat? And will your students come on their off days for food? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Um, these are all questions that unfortunately don't have a lot of answers for. And so this is where serving your parents is so, so important. Find out what you think they're willing to do and what they need to do so that we can, again, be your partner in helping to solve some of those needs. The equipment scarcity is going to be real. For meals in the classroom, anything down those lines, any kind of equipment that you think you're going to need transporting around, it's going to be scarce and getting your hands on because you're fighting with districts. So the earlier you're able to get on that, the better. And many of them often take 6 to 8 weeks to get anyways. And what are we, 8 weeks? Not even already from school starting again? For some of the schools that go into that August 10th start week. And then we're going to need to know if your school ends up having any sort of school emergency closure plan. If you've got teachers that test positive, students that test positive, and you go into a closure, the same way we would want like your bell schedule or your school calendar, please share with your account manager what your closure plan is so that we'll know the minute we hear that it may happen, we can already reference it and get an idea of what the likely impact, worst case scenario is going to be. It's just more information, the better for us. And on our challenges side, again, already touched on individually wrapped product availability. We're going to get our hands on everything that we can, and we're going to be working with local vendors on making new stuff that, like I said, maybe they've never made before, but we think they can, and we're going to challenge them to do it. Because again, this is a new opportunity to really maximize some of the local vendors that and help create more local jobs. The servers, we are going to be really adamant in enforcing that there is proper distancing requirements, even within our own servers. So they're going to be needing the amount of space necessary, whether they're each getting their own 6-foot table or so. So if any of your sites currently are serving in really tight quarters, we may have to partner with you and work. And do you really need multiple servers? Can you get away with one? Is there another area where they can work? Making sure that they have enough of their personal protective equipment and that they're wearing it properly. We're going to need, we can't be at every school site all day, every day. And if you're seeing our staff, drivers, servers, anyone not wearing their protective equipment properly, whether it's a face shield, a mask, anything, we need to know that. And we want to know that. And it's not just a matter of to get anyone in trouble. We want safety. We want to make sure everyone stays healthy. And then again, the no sick day replacements, that's absolutely going to be a challenge. But again, with the integrity, it's so important. We know there's going to be difficult delivery windows possibly because you're not going to be serving at normal times. So those are things we will need ample time and a little flexibility from you and understanding that we're going to be trying to meet your needs and your windows as best we can, but we are still limited by California traffic, how many meals we can get on trucks, how many deliveries we can stop at. There's a likelihood that if all the schools in the state switch to serve only and don't really take advantage of offers to serve, we could be seeing milk shortages the way we saw in March and April. We're hoping that doesn't necessarily come to fruition, but it's something that could happen if everyone is now going to serve only and milk to everyone. The additional packaging requirements, whether there is going to be the need for wrapped fruits, I mean, all of those things, we're going to be working with county health and your schools and trying to make sure that we're providing you the meals as best we can and the best safety. And we hear from your schools the amount of plastic that's going in bags and the wrappers and everything. And nobody likes that. We don't like it. I guarantee you. I cringe when I see the amount of plastic that's going out. And I know the opposite side of the damage we're doing with the amount, all that extra trash, but it's needed right now. And we get it. We're all just kind of trying to accept it. And then the learning of various service models. What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? How? Is it cold? Is it hot? Is it take home? Is it classroom based? We're going to try and learn as best we can with each of you. So I've got a question here. Is there new guidance for the food service layout, like plexiglass around the food tables, kids prohibited from grabbing milk cartons? So we don't have hard new guidance There's nothing from the state, nothing from county health yet. We're going to be learning as much as we can. There's a consultant out there that provides a lot of great best practices for schools that I subscribe to his emails. And so we'll be getting it. Any information that we get, we're going to be sharing along. And then as we come up with any sort of procedures and policies internally, then definitely we will share with you. And then anything that we put into place, whether we require plexiglass or anything down those lines, then definitely we will be working with you on what that rollout looks like. Because it would be really, really poor judgment on us to require something of you and then not give you a solution of how to do it and make you figure it out on your own. So definitely we'll keep you up to date. And as we kind of come up with what could be a best practice for your schools and for our staff, we'll share that information.
Yeah, but on that, let me just chime in there a little bit, Stephen. But on that, so even just thinking about the question about plexiglass, to me, that's thinking that you're still going to have a line of students coming to get lunch. You almost have to rethink even that. So it's almost like you're going to have to maybe space everybody out and have someone that serves each student, or the student comes up one by one. So it's going to have to be like totally out of the box thinking. It's not a line anymore. Maybe it's, the server sets up the meal on a table and then she walks away. The student walks up and picks up their meal. So there's going to be so many ways, and it's really going to depend on how you're going to structure your school day, the best suggestions that we're going to be able to give you as well. So it's definitely going to be like a team effort. There's a lot of people are saying they can't hear me.
I'm not sure why that is. I can hear you, Daphne.
Maybe you can just repeat what I said.
Are you able? All right. So Leslie, you can hear me. Can everyone else hear me? This is Steve. All right. So you can hear me. So I'm going to repeat. Again, Daphne was mentioning regarding like the plexiglass question. That would be taking the assumption of going to old traditional methods of service where the kids are there in your line and coming down the line. And that's where I think everyone's got to rethink a little bit of how we're going to do it, because depending on how many kids you have on site that day, the way you set up your line with proper social distancing, if it's serve only, potentially the servers are just placing the meal in total on the table, stepping back, letting the kid get it, and then continuing on as that kid passes through, but keeping proper distance between themselves and, like I said, the table. I mentioned the Starbucks reference. There was no plexiglass at that table, but I backed up. They put my drink on the table. They backed up. I went and got it. And so whether we're looking at something down those lines, that's one of the things we have to really look at all solutions and finding the best ways that's going to serve it. And it likely may not be, to have the plexiglass kind of frame over with just a little slide window. I think there's ways we can have proper safety with our staff and your students and your staff without necessarily going to some of the extremes. All right. Quick question. Let me see. Will there be any trainings before? Yes. Daniela, you got a question on. We typically around this time this week, and then in July we have our big trainings where we usually invite everyone here and we have lunch and we learn everything about next year. Obviously, we'd love to see you. We'd love to have you here, but we're not going to be hosting the typical trainings, so they will likely be like this. We'll be hosting hopefully more town halls with school CMOs who, once the plans are solidified, who want to share what they're going to be doing, what their school schedule is going to look like, and the way they are going to integrate food service. So we'll be having webinars on that, and then also with any new changes. As we learn more about the waivers, the finalizing the menu, what our tips are and best practices, there will definitely be more trainings. Get a quick peek at some of the menus. August menu. This is breakfast. So for the most part, it's going to be about an 8-day kind of rotation. Cereal day is going to be Wednesdays. but cereal is an option. Um, it is a secondary option for any of these days of the week. So you're going to see the pan dulce pretty often. You're going to see the coffee cakes pretty often. And part of that was we surveyed a few of you, and it was like, okay, well, if it's got to be limited, make sure the hits are there. Make sure my kids' favorites are there. And then Fridays is what we're trying to designate as the hot meal day. But all the other days of the week are going to be cold. And so again, this is the breakfast menu. Let me zoom out just a bit. And so it's a limited rotation, but this is just August, September again. Um, can touch on a little bit of the August lunch. And again, this is somewhat subject to change based on now we have these waivers. We're going to look at, and part of this also is making sure that our manufacturers, we're trying to solidify this menu so we can place orders already. And we need to make sure that all of these items are going to be produced for us and arrive in time. So we're going to have the entree of the day. This doesn't show the vegetarian menu, but there will be. And then the cold sandwich. We're going to go with about a 5-day sandwich rotation that you'll be able to kind of then integrate. So you can go a mix of the hot meal with the cold sandwich. You could go with a possible mix of the only the hot meal but delivered hot and cold for cold distribution to take home and heat. And so we'll be working with you on just about every scenario to figure out what's going to be the ideal way to make it work.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't know who can hear me, and it seems like about 50-50, but Stephen, I guess you could just reiterate. Also, we need to start placing our orders, but we don't know since it's a little bit up in the air even now because we're still not sure how much, you're not sure how much to place an order for, and we're not sure how much to order for. So we're in a little bit of a catch 21 here.
22.
Then, thank you.
And actually, Daphne, getting word again that they couldn't hear you, and I don't know why, because some people can, and I definitely can. But Daphne was saying right now, and that because you also don't know what your orders are going to look like, we have to submit. We make projections, and technically we have to submit orders for this to the manufacturers. And so we want to make sure that enough food is here to meet your demand, and then also that we're ordering properly. That's not too much. We're not going to end up with a ton of one particular item left over. But yeah, we don't know how much you're going to order, and neither do you yet. So it's kind of a crapshoot for all of us. And there was another question: is are commodities being integrated into this? To a certain degree, yes, they are. One of the things for August and September that we don't know yet is, will commodities even be sent? There's products that we have on reserve that may or may not get shipped to us. We don't know yet. And so a lot of these products these manuals do have commodity items in it. We just don't know if there's a guarantee that it will be commodity products. We may have to go buy them wholesale because we can't get the commodity items, or they're not going to be delivered in time. So it is being factored in. And again, many of these items do carry the oven baked fries, beef nachos, anything with the ground beef or turkey taco or some of the chicken and cheese. We definitely integrate and have thought about how best we can use commodities. We just don't have a guarantee from USDA that it's going to get here. How soon should we start ordering for late August? What's your thoughts, Daphne? And you can tell me and I will relay it out. The menu is going to be officially released. Daphne, what do you think, in the next week?
Yes, at the end of next week, menus will be online. And if you have a number to place it as soon as possible.
Yeah, so menus will be released next week. And if any of our Bay Area, Northern California schools, one of the things to remember is you'll get your menu. Northern California works about 1 week behind the menu, the way it's structured. So you probably won't even notice it once the menu gets released, but just wanted to throw that out there. Jonathan sent me a message. And so it'll be next week. You'll be able to start placing orders almost immediately after that. So if you know your numbers, definitely let's get those orders in. Um, take a peek, pull that September menu there. And one of our goals as we start getting it, and the salads may be too ambitious to already have planned for September. Well, that might not be to an October thing, but when we roll it, when we get to a full menu eventually, there will be the sandwich salad kind of menu dovetailed together. And then we're going to have this amazing thing called the favorites. And that's what you'll learn a little bit more in some of the pre-trainings. Is we're going to have a favorites menu that many of the schools have asked for, and we're pretty much rolling it out. And these are going to be a 5-day rotation available every single week in addition to your entree of the day. So now we're talking another hot dish, and they're going to be 5 items that are just some of your favorites. And you'll see them pulled from this entree of the day and just move into this favorites column. And it's going to be fun. We think your kids are going to like it. It's going to open up for those of you that have kids that like myself. I've got a 9-year-old that eats about 6 things. Well, 5 of those 6 are going to be on there. And so now you can find your pickier kids who don't step out of their comfort zone, but now you can start assuring that there's going to be a meal that they're going to like every single day.
Also, Stephen, I want to mention that the vegetable of the day is going to change now too, probably because the subgroup rule has now adjusted as well with the meal waiver.
All right.
Stephen, did you hear me?
I did.
Okay.
So let me see. I'm going to repeat that just in case anyone didn't hear it. The vegetable of the day will likely be changing now due to the new waiver release. And so we'll be updating that just to make it a little easier for your schools and making sure that we're providing you with the vegetables and the amounts that your kids are going to want and eat. And so we'll adjust that menu just a little bit. But we were really hoping that we were planning this pre-waiver. All right. So we got, apparently more people are starting to be able to hear you again, Daphne, which is great. All right, let's go back to the presentation. And we are pretty much towards the home stretch of last slides. Some tips and food for thought. For your server area, we've got to maintain social distancing, 6 feet social distancing with our servers. And I know that becomes difficult because they sometimes intermingle. This person's prepping bringing the vegetables over. This one's bringing the hot dish. We've got to figure out at every single site the way to be able to prepare your meals in your line that allows for still distancing. And this is again where you may have to look into, are your areas big enough for the amount of servers that you have? If you typically have 4 servers, but you're no longer going to have that space to really accommodate for all of them, then maybe we need to look at possibly reducing your servers, especially if you're going to be having less kids every day. If you're going to be only at 50% of your enrollments at any particular time, it may be easier to reduce downward. And that obviously could have impacts on your contract, because if you're going to be using less servers and it's tied into your pricing, then obviously we would work with you on reducing that, because you're not going to pay for staff or support that you're not necessarily going to be using. Then definitely limiting, we got to work with you to limit the contact of the servers with your staff and students as often as possible, placing meals out, stepping back, allowing them to grab and go. We want to keep distance away as much as possible. Just keep that interaction as just to what exactly is needed. And then and we have to be able to make sure and to think about, if one of our servers does get sick, who were they in contact with? If the student was just there in passing and our server's in full gear, and the student got the meal and went by, that wouldn't constitute actual contact for tracing it. And where the concern would be, whereas if one of your staff came over and we're talking about the weekend with the servers, and I know some of the servers, our staff are like family in your school, and they're comadres with some of your staff there. And if you're there talking 10 minutes, 20 minutes, that could constitute the direct contact. And now, okay, we need to figure out what are the next best steps for our staff, for your staff. let's see here. Um, so Annette, our own senior account manager, Annette was asking if we're going to be offering styrofoam cameras as an option for serving in the classroom. And the answer to that is going to be yes. We're trying to figure out what is going to be the right size need for you. Because right now, the typical ones that are available, and these are soft black cameras that are real lightweight, but they're too big in my opinion, for what I think your classrooms are going to need. So we're looking at finding ways to reduce them down, and then we'll figure out how best it can be for ordering and whether we order in bulk and then distribute them out. But that would be somewhat in lieu of like some of the blue, green, red bags um, that are on the roller carts that sell that are pretty pricey, $150, $200 for a cart for a single classroom. I'm trying to get that price down to about half of that. So my little thing is blocking what the title is for this middle one. Um, and so, anyways, though, sorry. But our goal definitely create clusters. So whether we're limiting the contact, allowing for easy contact tracing, we want to know exactly who our servers will have in contact with, um, and what, and whether it's servers, drivers, anyone. We want to be able to limit who they come in contact with, so any tracing down the line is going to be easy to do. Um, we definitely want to encourage you to simplify the meal options. Definitely, we are already reducing the menu down, but I'm talking to a lot of schools that are saying, no, we're going to order one item per day, and the kids are going to have to make it work because we need those kids to grab the meal, and we don't need them spending the extra 5 to 10, 20 seconds deciding, do I want the sandwich or do I want the spaghetti today? Um, and then deciding how when your meals arrive, again, start planning those plans of what the meals on hand, once they're received, what does the process look like? How are they going to be staged? How are they going to be set for distribute to your school? And then this is going to be a Daphne specialty, but the offer versus serve classroom cheat sheet. We feel like there's an answer there. I'm still having offer versus serve even in for those of you that are going to feed in your classroom. And so we want to brainstorm with you for any of you that are electing and want to maybe go that route of doing offer versus serve. We want to start working with you, and I think there's going to be some really cool solutions that we can come up with. Um, And then again, as Wendy just chatted, one meal option will make your life, if you are feeding in the classroom, much easier. Everyone gets the same thing. You can pass them out and move on very quickly. And so you're on your family engagement piece. Definitely start sharing some of this information, letting the families know we are going to have food. Your school is going to have food. You're going to have breakfast, lunch, and whatever meals you have available to you, you're going to serve. But letting them know you're going to have a reduced menu. It's going to be cold. It's going to be hot. It's going to be grab and go. It's going to be in the classroom. Start really pushing that information out. But just letting them know that you are working with for a plan that's going to be there for their kids. Um, and then again, start looking at your direct certs. If you are looking at going CEP or so, if you would like to talk to any schools that are CEP right now, Alliance of CEP, Schools in Action has rolled that out. PUC, I believe, um, has had some conversations. So there's a lot of really experienced CMOs that have good knowledge, and perhaps we can work with you to share some of their real life experiences. One thing to get it from CDE, it's another from a consultant or so. But these schools are possibly a mile or two away from you, and they've been going through it for the last year, getting their approvals, putting all the procedures in place. And we're happy to connect with you or connect them with you if you're all interested. Um, definitely, again, the meal applications, push your families, stress the importance that it's never been more important that they're honest with you. Um, and that they do share the full information, count every single person in the household, not just the immediate family. It impacts the salary or the total household income. Uh, just, yeah, push it out to them. Start thinking about how your parents will interact with your staff. Obviously, you already are. I've been to a lot of schools. I see the plexiglass up. I see the limited interaction. Outstanding. And then but share with us possibly what your plans are for any contact tracing or anything you're going to need to do if one of your staff members gets sick and you want to have any questions about our staff if they've had any contact. And then many of you are already serving the parents and definitely keep it up. And then if you haven't yet, definitely get started. Find out what your parents are willing to do, what they're not willing to do, what their needs are, and what they want. Um, and so if they do want those meals for extra days, this way you can start preparing for it and have a good plan. What time do they need to come pick them up? You're never going to make everyone happy. You're never going to be able to meet every single person's needs and demands, but however best you can, I know you're all going to do it, and it's amazing. So that's roughly about it. So again, we will be having some upcoming town halls at some of your schools and already rolling out your plans or solidifying everything. We want to know. And if you're willing to share that with you, you can be the star of the next town hall. I'm happy. You don't need to see this mug anymore. I want to showcase your schools, what you're doing, and really know that or have that information that because some of the schools aren't necessarily as far along as some of the others are just the meal side is an afterthought. You're just trying to figure out how you're going to educate these kids. And so definitely if you're willing to share that information and you want to present and even you maybe use some of these schools as a sounding board. Say, this is what we plan to do. What do you think? Where are the pitfalls I'm not seeing here? And we've got some brilliant minds on here and I'm sure they would love to be a part of it. So if we haven't scheduled them yet, they will be hopefully over the next week or two scheduled. And some of them may be really short notice. This one, I think you only had a week notice and we had over 100 RSVPs and there's literally 87 people logged in right now. So you may get a week's notice, but every single one of these will be recorded. And so it takes a few hours to process the recording after, and then we will upload it either onto our website or to YouTube. And you're happy to access it and share it as you need. And even if they're not a Better For You client, if you have contacts at other schools, whether it's a former charter group or CMO you used to work at, you can share this information. This isn't proprietary that, oh no, they're not a Better For You client. No, it's not going to happen. No, they're all our kids. I don't give a darn if they're Better For You, served kids or not. I care about kids eating. And so feel free to share this with anyone else that you've got. Any other contacts, we are happy. Good info. And I think if there's any other last questions, please feel free to send them. I'll stick around for a few more minutes, but otherwise you can email us. And then, oh, Lauren, what you got here? You're also going to have a town hall next week to dig deep into the waivers and eligibility. You want me to join? I want to learn. I'm doing too much talking already. But yeah, so Lauren, if you want to send me the link and any info for your info, I'm happy to send it to all these people here who want to learn more about the waivers. We'll definitely share the information and thank you all again. These 3 months have been interesting, challenging, and heart-wrenching and heartbreaking, but I'm so in awe of all of you and in all of our staff, what they've pulled off, and it's gonna get better. We're gonna get back to normal, and we're gonna get back to serving good food all the time, every day, and a good variety. And it's gonna be a good year. So thank you all, Daff or Wendy. Anybody else last thoughts? But appreciate your time. And we actually almost even stayed under time. This is just a little over. All righty, everyone. I don't see any more questions. Oh, go ahead, Daff.
Yeah, just thank you as well, everyone. We've it's been hard these few months, but we're so grateful to those schools that have stayed open and continued serving. Like if you haven't been open and you're just sort of coming out of the woodwork, all of the account managers are working. Give them a call, email me, email Steven. We're glad to go in deep. And then hopefully, I think for the next one, once we start hearing about how schools are going to open, then we will come up with more detailed plans on how to support you.
Great, man. One more question snuck in, or the presentation, a link to it will be emailed to you. It's going to be a humongous file. So again, it will likely get uploaded to YouTube, and then you'll be able to access it. It'll be a kind of a private link. And then also, if you didn't get any of the attachments, I will make sure you get the presentation, the draft menu. Again, you got to give us a little bit of freedom, knowing it will change possibly a little bit, and then also the US CDE announcements on the waivers. We'll send you those links. And then also I'll send out any links for additional upcoming webinars and town halls, whether they're coming from School Food Solutions or No Kid Hungry. All righty. Thank you all. Thank you all. Have a great day, great weekend. And it's only June. We're 6 months into 2020. And now we have a sandstorm coming. It just keeps getting better. So y'all have a good one, and we'll be in touch very soon. Take care.